Welcome to Economic Vitality Unplugged, where we explore the people and the partnerships shaping the future of Tallahassee and Leon County's economy. I'm your host, Keith Bowers, with the Office of Economic Vitality. Today, we are diving into the skilled talent pipeline, what it takes to build it, sustain it, and ensure that it meets the evolving needs of our employers and communities. My guest is someone that I deeply respect in this space, BJ Van Camp, the director of Lively Technical College. BJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith.
Well, let's dive right into it. Before we get started, I want to talk about a couple of things. So let's take a step back. How did you find your way into workforce development? And then what led you to this work?
It's been a long path. I have only ever wanted to be an educator, a teacher from knee high. And so that was figured out early on. I spent a lot of time in the K-12 landscape, but always in Title I schools, always looking for that opportunity to help students find their path, find the skills that they could build on so that they would feel successful in this world we call education. But growing up, I was the odd duck in my home. I was the nerd that loved school. That's why I go to school every single day for my entire life. But I came from a family of tradespeople. My grandfather, who was a retired veteran, was an airplane mechanic. And so growing up, I would see him tearing things apart, putting it back together. He was that person. I didn't have to take my car to a mechanic because those skills generalized for him. My dad and my uncle developed their own business. I am not from Tallahassee, even though I've lived here longer than my hometown. I'm from outside of Tampa, where it rarely gets lower than 50 degrees, even in the winter. So they had a business of building pool enclosures. So growing up and watching them be able to turn somebody's dream into a reality of a completed project, right, and hearing the pride of their work and of their craftsmanship, I knew I didn't have that skill set. So when you can't do it, you teach it. So I moved on to teaching, but I think it was that understanding of people having different giftedness, not just reading, not just traditional math, but to be able to put all those things together. That's what I saw in my family. And that is, I think, what makes this such a perfect fit for me in my journey of being an educator. Because now I get to do that at a broader landscape and be part of a louder conversation, right, not just for students, but for business and for our community.
Wow, that's a great story. And it's interesting that you made the nexus between education and occupation. And you're right, this basically speaks to what you're currently doing right now in real time. So that is a wonderful story. So let's talk about how Lively actually uses data to make decisions. You know, the workforce needs are always evolving. The landscape in the workplace is changing. It's so dynamic. So how does Lively keep up? How do you make sure that the programs that you're offering are relevant to the employers today?
Good question. And you hit the nail on the head in the title of this podcast. It's about sustainability. It's not trying to find a quick solution. It's trying to find the long and the lasting solution. So data does that. And I think you and I could talk all day about data, but there is so much data out there. The things that we use most as my team, my administrative team, my instructors, is first a piece of data from DOE, from the Department of Education here in Florida. It's called FETPIP. And so each of those letters stand for something. It's the Florida Educational Training Placement Informational Program. Now that's lag data, but what it does is it shows us if we're meeting the mark on the people we are set up to serve. So Lively Technical College is under the umbrella of Leon County Schools with intention to ensure broad accessibility to our community. So what that data shows is how many people are matriculating from high school, the K-12 system, into a post-secondary system, whether it's a technical college system, a state and university system. And so you'll see that trend data all the way back from 2016 to 2022. Are we promoting this pathway, are we ensuring the accessibility to the students we serve? Because if you see high numbers of graduates that aren't matriculating, that puts us on the path to making sure we're out there promoting, talking, recruiting, doing the community outreach. It also, I use that when I'm talking to parents, when I'm talking to members of our community, because it puts a value on what the post-secondary training gives. It will show the earning potential or the earnings of people with just a high school diploma versus people with industry credentials from a post-secondary institution like Lively or from a college or university system. That's really, really powerful. But again, that's lag data. So when we're looking at really on-the-spot data, I use CareerSource, the occupational targeted list. I liken it to a Cliff Notes version. So it's all of our targeted industries. It shows us the entry-level wage, the median wage, but really what I highlight on that is the growth, the trend over time of the potential growth of the jobs. Because again, it's about sustainability. Lively is primed to be able to start programs quickly, but our goal is not being in the business of opening and closing programs. It's opening the programs that meet a large need, a generalized need in our community so that we have that sustainability of being a pipeline. But then again, using OEV data, and I clearly recognize I'm sitting across from the expert about that data, but that is a holistic view of our community. It has targeted industry data, but it gets down to that community level. What is happening locally? Where are businesses coming? Where are the housing being built? We have a building trades program that supports that, but also the demographic data. Right. And there's more, but those are the highlights of the data we use because it is finding that right solution, not a solution, but the right solution to meet the needs of our community.
Right. So once you gather this data and basically synthesize and analyze this data, how does that translate into programs? Do you take that data and say, now we see that there's a demand and we see a rising demand in this certain segment of the targeted industries, and then now that you have that data, what do you and your team do beyond that point?
This is where it's not as clinical because then we take it back to our partners. We take it back to the business and industry community. Hey, what are your thoughts? What do you see? Because they are on the cutting edge. They know the problem before it's public, before we are aware, because we are there in the support, in the pipeline, but they're there in the trenches. So we always take it back to them. Sometimes it's a much quicker solution than starting a brand new program. Sometimes it's embedding a credential. Sometimes it's embedding a specific piece of equipment to give a targeted and focused training to our graduates. And so it's maintaining that discussion and that dialogue with our business and industry partners that is critical. They will lead us in the right direction. They have a vested interest in our graduates and in our programs being viable and being sustained.
Excellent, excellent. One of the things that I admire most about Lively is to focus on credentials that have a value in the market. How do you decide which credentials to include? Is that part of the conversation that you have with your community partners in the business industry?
100%. So in our space, we know what the MCL is, the Master Credential List, that being part of the REACH Act is really a tool for the public, not just for educators, not just for business and industry. It is like the inside scoop on what is the credential that has the highest return on investment. So we always analyze that. We use that in our program meetings. We use those in our occupational advisory council meetings because, as you know, that pages and pages of credentials. We bring that to business and industry and say, out of these, what has the highest market value for you? Often, or sometimes, not often, sometimes we find there are credentials not on that list. So in our space, we work with DOE and advocate and lobby to get the credentials that business and industry is voicing a need for on that master's credential list. But we use that as an outcome measure for our students. Our students, when they leave our program, they have a skill to meet an industry need at an entry level. But that credential also carries a market value. It's that documented knowledge of you can put me to the test or put me to work immediately with this focused skill that might be needed. But again, it is also a pathway to stack credentials. And I hope we get a chance to talk about career dual enrollment.
Yes.
Because we have programs in our high schools that offer credentials that can be stacked. So you might earn this as a high school student, you matriculate to Lively, and then you earn this higher level or more of the professional credential as you're continuing to get experience in the lab or in the workplace through work-based learning. And so credentials are really, really important for our students in terms of their marketability, but it also gives them that success factor, that pride factor.
Right.
I did this, and this is what I have to show you.
Exactly.
And it's not just about the industry credentials. What we have heard routinely, and I wonder if you hear it as well, is an emphasis on soft skills. It's not just about knowing how to do the work. It's being able to play well with others, communicate, show up on time, and do what you say you're going to do. So that's another piece of the puzzle that we really focus on in our programs, our workplace and employability skills, those soft skills. So when we have a graduate that leaves Lively, you have your college diploma, which is an amazing goal to work towards. In addition, you have your Florida Ready to Work soft skills credential, and then you have your industry credential, all three, because we are really trying to provide a whole employee into the industry and into the workforce.
That's what's needed too, because the credentials get you in the door, but those soft skills
keep you there.
Keep you in the door. So you mentioned it. Let's talk about dual enrollment. You've already leaned into this as a way to introduce students to the workforce opportunities. How's that going for you?
It's amazing. It is amazing to see someone who is not 100% certain about what they want to do. Oftentimes, and your counterpart, Daryl Jones, on the graduation stages, are what's next? And too often, students don't have an answer to that question. So having this opportunity to dialogue on your podcast, I hope listeners, the audience, parents, moms and dads and grandmas hear Lively Technical College is an answer to that. But when we can catch them earlier than at the point they're graduating and walking across that stage, we have time. We have time to give them an opportunity to just develop an innate talent, to develop an interest that may keep them in school and ensure that they walk across that graduation stage. That's really, really important, because sometimes students don't see the relevancy between what they're doing in a classroom, in the four walls in a classroom, and how that's going to support their next steps in a college or in a career in an industry. My biggest passion and purpose is to connect education to career. And so they get a chance to do that in a really relevant and hands-on way. It's completely at no cost to students. So they're developing skills, they're developing their passion and their purpose, they are developing confidence in themselves. So when they graduate, they are ready to step into a workplace, they are ready to step into their position. But I hope their path doesn't end there, because that's going back to the idea of stackable credentials. Experience is the best teacher. We all know that. So you got to start somewhere, but at a point, that experience needs to be supported with more training and more development. And that's also the space Lively is at with our apprenticeship programs and our externship programs. Come back, get that next level of training as well, because again, sustainability, not just for our programs, but for business and industry, we have to have a plan to support at all levels of an organization. Entry-level positions, that mid-level position as well. That's the next step.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's a great opportunity, like you said, for students that are currently enrolled in high school, that they get an exposure to what it looks like to actually pursue this career path. And a lot of times people don't do certain things because they kind of self-diagnose and say, well, I can't do this and I can't do this, or it's going to require me to do X, Y, Z. But through a dual enrollment program, they can kind of test the waters and maybe determine which fields might not be best suited for their talents and skills,
Yes.
and which ones are. So that's great.
And there's a strategy in which programs are in our high schools. So Lively offers 30 different programs. We can't support 30 programs in each of our local high schools. So the strategy is including the programs for our high schools that generalize. So we have welding, as we know, generalizes across a lot of business and industry, that skill set. Technicians, automotive technicians, because you can work in an automotive industry, you can work in a small engine, you can work in diesel heavy equipment. And so I think that's also key. Having the experience, getting your toes wet, dipping your toes in a way that will be able to generalize. Because at 16, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an educator, but most students don't. So it's important to give them a wide range of experiences that are really representative of the work of the industry. And I think that's what's key and why we want students for a very short time at least to matriculate over to Lively's main campus and experience the real work environment. 7.5 hours a day in a lab working on the equipment, I think is essential. And that's what we hear with feedback from business and industry.
Yeah, that's so powerful. It saves money. It saves the families money. It gives the students confidence, and it helps the businesses get talent sooner.
Absolutely.
So that is amazing. So you mentioned it earlier, your relationship with the business community. That's something that is very admirable. How do your employers engage with your organizations? How do employers link into Lively?
I think first and foremost, our instructors come from industry. There is not one instructor that has not started and has not gained decades of experience in business and industry. So they come with those networks. They come with those relationships. So that's first and foremost, is staying connected in that way. Our instructors have continuing education as well. They're teaching entry level, but they are experts in their field. So maintaining those relationships so they can get out there and do those fun and exciting things for them, installing or fixing, an engine, whatever it is, our nurses doing walk with the doc and, staying involved with what are the pressing issues in healthcare. Through those relationships, we formally invite business and industry partners to be on advisory boards. So we have an institutional advisory council. So that those are broad strokes for programs, for direction, for infrastructure, all of those things. But then we have programmatic occupational advisory committees. So that's where we pull out our plan books, our curriculum frameworks. So if you can paint the picture, the frameworks are a list of competencies we have to teach from the state. Well, they're all represented by a bullet. So they all have the same size. But what business and industry does, this bullet needs to be big because you need to spend at least 30% of the time they are here doing this. This bullet can be decreased in size, a 10 font, because it's a piece we need to cover, but it's not a priority. So that's the benefit of those programmatic advisory councils. And we meet with them twice a year. There's always conversations, always, both ways. Our instructors are calling our business and industry for work-based learning opportunities. We want to get them on a job site. We want our students to see behind the curtain. We want our students to be with a journeyman or with a licensed and trained individual technician so that they really understand what it means to be in that industry. But on the flip side, we are inviting business and industry onto our campus. Look at our equipment. What do we need to update?
Yeah.
What do we need to warehouse?
Right.
So it goes both ways. I think another key way that if I am a business, if I'm an industry, if I am an invested person in our community, another way to support is through scholarships and through mentorship relationships, by being a guest speaker. Often we have business and industry recruiting right from our classrooms because they have open positions.
Yeah.
Like that's the currency, our graduates. But to continue that accessibility and continue to ensure that people can have the opportunity to be in our programs, mentoring is often that defining factor. We serve community 32304. That zip code gets spoken about a lot in Tallahassee for a reason. And so sometimes students don't understand the power of post-secondary training, or they don't believe I can be successful at that. Having that person that's in their corner that's saying, yes, you can, and I'm going to hold your hand along the way until you can walk forward on your own is just so key, but it's underutilized. And so that's a way anyone can serve. And then sponsoring scholarships. A lot of our students come as 18, 19-year-olds. We accept Florida prepaid, so they have a full ride. We have other students that come that have a family, that are making a career change, that have to continue to pay the rent, pay for the groceries, pay for all of those things. And so oftentimes scholarships or additional funding sources are necessary and important for them. That's a way that business and industry can support our community through access to training.
And that's an intentional investment.
100%.
That's an intentional investment that's going to have large returns for that entity, that company that invests in that student.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So we're getting close to our end here. So what is on the horizon for Lively, and where do you see things going right now?
Oh, good question. Lively has been in Tallahassee for 85 years. We consider ourselves a leader in workforce development. We have stood up programs that have withstood the test of time because I think they are needed and necessary. But it's the perspective that I want business and industry is to recognize Lively Technical College as the Titan career and technical education.
And you guys just unveiled your new your mascot.
We did with intention. And so it's bringing that to the forefront because when you envision Titan, because we chose that deliberately, it brings to mind an idea of resilience, of persistence, of grit. I personally always think of the titans of industry, Carnegie, Rockefeller. They forged ahead in spite of barriers. They overcame obstacles. They saw things different than their contemporaries. And that's what Lively really does by, number one, really making an investment in quality programs. Our instructors tell me what they need. It's my job to give it to them and make that happen. Then it is really, really serving our business and industry, having those discussions and forming those deep and lasting relationships with key players in the industry. And that's what the recipe for success is. And that's how and why we think we are the titans of career and technical education.
That is awesome. So, BJ, first of all, thank you so much for taking time to educate me and the community, our broader community. I think everyone really needs to listen to this conversation because it has so much relevance now. And as you and I talked before about data, the key factor is you drive around Tallahassee, and I would say 8 out of 10 businesses have a help wanted sign.
Yes, they do.
The conversations that we're having with folks on our end, when we try to recruit companies here, is workforce. Where are we going to get qualified, trained employees? And one of the selling points, the unique selling features of our community, when I go out and start to talk to these companies, is that we not only have a ready workforce, but we are investing in the pipeline, which you guys play such a big role in making sure that that pipeline talent stays robust, it stays relevant. And as you mentioned, it's not only the technical aspects, but the soft skills that also come along with that. So I can't underscore how much of a role that Lively plays into our ability to attract outside investments into this community. So I want to thank you and your team. You have an amazing team. I met a number of folks on your team. And what I found so impressive is that they are happy, they are fired up, they are very invested in the success of these students, which means that they're invested in the success of our community.
And I think when you have passion and purpose, it creates that synergy. And that's what you feel when you come on our campus as a student, as a visitor, as a business partner. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity, because I think there's still a stigma around the trades, around that work, which is heartbreaking because it's so valuable and critical. Like, who do you call when you don't have running water in your home and you can't cook? Right. You call a plumber. There is value and there's respect in that. And someone that is going to come on a Friday night, late at night, or on a Saturday. And so I think having the opportunity to have some of your time, Lively and trades, having some of your time, I hope will elevate that in the public perception, because our school system is still a very traditionally minded school system where college is the successful path. And if you can't do that, well, then let's consider this. And we've got to turn that on its ear. Yeah. We have to, because it is so important that we have people that serve, right? Being a plumber, being an electrician, being a teacher, being a doctor, we all serve our community. So I just wanted to say thank you for this. That's what's really meaningful too.
And to our listeners, if you want to learn more about workforce programs or how to connect with Lively, you can visit their website, livelytech.com. And we've also are going to have a link to Lively's offerings on our website. So you can visit our website, but they are definitely part of the talent development pipeline in our community. This has been Economic Vitality Unplugged. Until next time, keep investing in people, because people build prosperity. And again, thank you, BJ, for everything that you're doing.